Some deleted scenes in Transformers. Age of Extinction were so important, they completely changed entire characters, storylines, and even the ending itself. And honestly, a few of them look better than what we actually got in theaters. 1. Unicron as a living planet with eyes everywhere. One rejected Unicron concept might be the creepiest of them all. Instead of being a robotic planet, artists imagined him as a living mechanical world covered in giant moving eyes. Entire mountain ranges on his surface would blink and watch characters as they traveled across him. The design was meant to make Unicron feel like a cosmic horror instead of just a giant enemy. While the concept art looked unforgettable, producers worried it was way too disturbing for younger audiences. Writers also struggled to explain how the design would even function logically in the Transformers universe. In the end, the Nightmare Fuel version was scrapped, but some fans still wish they had seen it brought to life. 2. Devastator as a humanoid giant. Originally, one concept for Devastator completely removed the construction vehicle monster look and turned him into a smooth humanoid giant instead. Designers wanted him to appear more athletic and agile instead of being a chaotic pile of machinery. The early sketches showed a cleaner body shape with glowing armor and balanced proportions. But fans of the concept team immediately noticed the problem. Devastator was supposed to feel messy, overwhelming, and almost unstable. That giant pile of parts appearance is what made him unique and terrifying. Turning him into a cleaner humanoid design removed the sense of scale and destruction. The creators eventually agreed it looked too generic and abandoned the idea before production moved forward. 3. Optimus Prime with a cloak. At one point, a fantasy-inspired version of Optimus Prime nearly entered production with an actual metal cloak hanging from his shoulders. The design was inspired by medieval warriors and kings, giving him a knight-like appearance. On paper, it sounded epic. But once animators started testing movement, everything went wrong. The cloak clipped through his body during transformations and constantly glitched during action scenes. It also covered too much of the recognizable truck parts fans expected to see. Some artists loved the dramatic look, but others thought it made Optimus feel less like a transformer and more like a sci-fi wizard. The idea was eventually dropped, though bits of the knight aesthetic later appeared in some movie versions. 4. Starscream with no face 1. Experimental design for Starscream tried to make him look colder and more alien by removing his face entirely. Instead, he had a smooth metal visor with glowing lights underneath. The creators thought it would make him appear mysterious and intimidating. But there was one huge issue. Starscream's personality depends heavily on facial expressions. He's dramatic, arrogant, paranoid, and constantly plotting betrayal every 5 seconds. Without a visible face, animators struggled to show his emotions properly. Test scenes ended up feeling lifeless because viewers couldn't connect with the character anymore. Eventually, the team realized Starscream, without expressions, just didn't feel like Starscream at all. So the faceless design disappeared into the vault. 5. Soundwave with spider legs. One rejected version of Soundwave looked like something straight out of a nightmare. Instead of the smooth and calm design fans know today, this version had giant mechanical spider legs extending from his back. The legs could crawl independently and even trap enemies like a giant robotic insect. The concept artists wanted him to feel more like a surveillance predator hiding in the shadows. But the design scared executives for a completely different reason. Toys. The spider legs were considered too fragile and expensive to manufacture properly. On top of that, younger audiences found the design creepy rather than cool. While parts of the idea survived in later games and comics, the full spider version was rejected almost immediately. 6. Grimlock as a construction vehicle. Everyone knows Grimlock as the giant robotic T-Rex who acts like absolute chaos with legs. But early concepts once considered making him transform into a bulldozer instead. The idea was based on making the Dinobots feel more realistic in modern cities where giant dinosaurs might seem too ridiculous. Designers created heavy construction-themed armor and massive wrecking equipment attached to his body. But something important disappeared from the character. Grimlock's entire appeal comes from the fact that he turns into a dinosaur and acts completely unhinged. Removing that instantly made him less memorable. Even the artists admitted the bulldozer version looks generic compared to the T-Rex design. Thankfully, the dinosaur won. 7. RC with a human face. One of the weirdest rejected ideas came from an attempt to make RC more emotional for audiences. Designers created a version where her robotic face looked almost completely human, with realistic lips, skin textures, and detailed eyes. The result ended up landing directly in the uncanny valley. Instead of looking emotional, she looked terrifying. Test renders reportedly creeped out several people working on the project because she looked like a robot trying too hard to imitate a human being. The creators quickly realized Transformers work best when they still feel mechanical. Fans want personality, but not to the point where the robots stop looking like robots. The human-faced RC concept was quietly buried before it could traumatize an entire generation. 8. Megatron, turning into a dragon. During the early planning of one Transformers reboot, artists experimented with making Megatron transform into a giant mechanical dragon. And honestly, the concept art looked insane. He had giant metal wings, glowing red eyes, and fire coming from his mouth like a fantasy monster. The design team wanted him to look like pure fear itself. But producers quickly worried the character no longer felt like a Transformer, and instead looked like something from another franchise entirely. Some even joked he looked more like a rejected video game boss. The design also created animation problems because the wings and tail were too complicated for action scenes. Even though fans later got dragon-like Transformers in other stories, this version of Megatron never made it past the concept stage. 9. Bumblebee as a jet. Believe it or not, one rejected version of Bumblebee transformed into a small fighter jet instead of a car. Designers wanted him to feel faster and more useful in combat, especially after seeing how popular flying Transformers were becoming. The sketches showed a sleek yellow aircraft with sharp wings and a much more serious face design. But the problem was that Bumblebee's personality never matched the concept. He was always meant to feel relatable, small, and kind of underdog-like. Turning him into a jet suddenly made him seem too powerful and less approachable. Writers also realized it would remove the fun contrast between him and larger Autobots. So the jet idea was abandoned, and Bumblebee stayed closer to his grounded roots. 10. Optimus Prime as a tank. Before the classic red and blue truck design became legendary, one early concept imagined Optimus Prime as a massive military tank. The idea was meant to make him look more intimidating and battle-ready, especially during the darker phases of the franchise. Artists gave him huge cannons, heavy armor plating, and a bulky silhouette that looked closer to a moving fortress than a heroic leader. But there was one major problem. The creators felt it made Optimus look too aggressive and too similar to Megatron. Optimus was supposed to represent hope and protection, not destruction. Test audiences also struggled to recognize him without the iconic truck shape. In the end, the tank version was scrapped, and fans probably dodged a huge identity crisis,